Yo ho ho, me pipers, yo ho. Okay, so today I'm doing another tea video. This was actually a request from a viewer. Hey Andrew, at Andrew, thanks for the comments. Hi Ren. Ren. Hi. So you know, in the realm of tea, a lot of the different teas that are out there come in classifications that are really similar to pipe tobacco. Or think of like brewing methods for different either whiskey, beer, wine, and then the different types of whiskey designations depending on what the contents are, how they're processed, what fermentation processes are used, and things like that. So the last one we looked at was gyokuro, which is a Japanese style tea, and essentially gyokuro is the king of green teas. If not one of the finest produced, teas, delicate teas out there. Pu'er, on the other hand, is what we'll be looking at today, and that's my best estimation at how it's actually pronounced. Gyokuro I can do a little better because I understand the language a little bit, but Pu'er, it's Pu, usually has a comma, and then er, Pu'er, Pu'er, Pu'er. Your guess is as good as mine. And Pu'er itself comes in different designations and styles, but this is essentially the oldest, really sort of form of brewed tea. If you want to liken it to a type of tobacco, I think Perique is probably the closest thing. It is pressed, it is aged, it is fermented with as natural a process as possible, versus gyokuro we talked about uses air drying and heated steam in open air. Pu'er on the other hand is really sort of supposed to be as natural as possible. It uses actual microbial fermentation as well as oxidization. There are a couple kinds of Pu'er. I have some laid out here. I know you probably can't see them. They come sometimes in these little bricks that you can get, which are kind of nice because you can actually break these off and just drop it right in your brewing vessels if you want. They also come in discs. These kind of disc medallions and these fancy folded packages are probably what you'll get most of the time. This is 200 grams versus this one I think is 100 grams. However, folks who are like into the Pu'er world of tea, you're more likely to find something like this. This is definitely larger. I think this is a 400 gram disc. But this is aged. A lot of times they're aged. And Pu'er, unlike most other teas, these grow in value the older they get. You don't want that fresh stuff, right? You want old Pu'er. And the older the better. I purchased this in 2008. You can still see the label. And I think even at this time, I believe this was already 10 years old, I think, which would put it somewhere at 1998 of when this tea was actually placed into its fermentation vessel, and began its life, essentially. So that's pretty cool. These are much younger. I think this says 2020. So this is 5 years old. And that is unopened. Obviously, I have not opened this. And this one, I can't remember when I bought this. And it doesn't look like it has a born on date that I can tell. This is a cheaper style. So, that just gives you an idea. In terms of what it looks like, it comes in these pressed cake. So think of this like a cake. This is what a piece of this medallion looks like when it's broken off. And very similar to like a crumble cake, you just pull off what you want and put it in there. So I'll get that a little closer. You can see sort of the fine ribbons in there. This is also what's called shu, I believe. Shu style. Shu, I believe, just means heavily processed. It might represent a color or something of that, but this is your aged, highly processed Pu'er tea. This one, I believe, it's usually more expensive. This one, I believe, this is Sheng. So Sheng, I believe, just means raw. So this is your green tea variety of Pu'er. And you can see this brick is still a cake. It's still pressed into this cake format. But it comes in these like nice little, you can just break that off and drop it right in your teapot. What I will say though is you do not need a lot of this. A very tiny little bit of this goes a long way. I kid you not, this one brick in, I would say this is like a 12-ounce brewing vessel. I could probably steep this 8 to 12 times in this size vessel. If I were to put this in, say, a larger pot, fewer steepings probably, but would still be enough probably to sufficiently flavor like a 32-ounce vessel, if I had to guess. I routinely put maybe 1/8 of this in a 24-ounce vessel, and I can steep it 3 or 4 times and still have a rich, very full-bodied flavored tea. It's also, Pu'er is also very, what I would say, it's not delicate, it's robust. It'll handle heavier, like higher water temperatures, and it can steep a little longer. There are different, opinions about the brewing process and things. I'm trying to think of the term. The gongfu, it's where the word kung fu comes from. But gongfu just means like in the style of, or the art of, the way of sort of processing. Gongfu usually specifically means for tea, at least in this context. So the gongfu for Pu'er is use way more tea than you think you need, steep it at the correct temperature, which I think for Pu'er should be around 200 degrees, and throw away the first steeping. You do not serve or drink or consume the first steeping. I don't know what the theory is behind that, because I actually kind of like the taste of the first really robust, gnarly steeping. But I think the theory is that you're getting rid of the impurities. Like, this is old stuff, right? And if this has been sitting in this box, this has, like, literally been sitting in this box for almost 20 years. And this is a piece of this, actually. I have quite a bit of it left. For some reason, I thought I was almost out of it. But you toss that away, right? And you're flushing out the dirt, the grime, cobwebs, whatever, with that first steeping. So then every steeping after that is what you would serve. So, I usually drink the first one myself and give my partner the better steepings. That kind of comes to, like, what do you serve this in? What do you steep it in? Traditionally, like an Yijing pot, this is Yijing. This is just a cup. Comes with a little lid. And then the steeping is just also, that's clay. And Yijing is just this style of purple clay. Kind of can look brown sometimes. I have another one that's a actual teapot size. I don't have it within reach, but that looks a little more purple. It's higher quality. This is very cheap. But you would want to brew it in an Yijing vessel. Typically, that Yijing vessel, in pipe community, we think about ghosting. This is really strong stuff, and this is porous clay, so it'll absorb that flavor. So maybe have one for Shu and one for Sheng. I just do it all in one. Like I said, I have other Yijing pots that I use, but for other things. So yeah, what does this taste like? Is another question. The Sheng, I have had several bricks of the Sheng style. I don't like it. I try to keep just small quantities of it. If I want it, I'll use it. But as you can see, I've had this for a long time. 4 or 5 years probably, and never used it. I just don't reach for it often. The Shu style, I love. You will never taste another tea like this. especially this old. Like I said, I haven't cracked this one open yet because I bought this honestly because I thought I was running out, and then I just opened this for this video and I was like, oh wow, there's a lot more left in there than I thought. So this will probably sit for another 5 years before I open it. What does it taste like? The Shang, to me, is always just kind of dirty. Dirty tasting. It's green tea. It has a green tea flavor, but it's somewhere in between green tea and oolong. And I'm not particularly fond of Chinese green tea anyway. I almost exclusively drink Japanese green tea. So if you like the Chinese green tea and you want something a little stronger with a little more funk to it, a little spicier and a little more depth, you might like the Shang. So Shang, green tea, somewhere in between oolong and your traditional Dragonwell green tea of Chinese origin. I think it's kind of dirty. It has a little bit of what I like to call that like barnyard funk, like hay, straw, little must, something like that. However, the shoe style, this stuff is incredible. Like I said, you'll never taste anything quite like it in the tea world. It stands on its own. It is very rich, very full, really heavy. Like, you think of like a nice English breakfast black tea. Yeah, it's pretty dark. It's kind of red. This stuff looks like wine, and it has the mouthfeel and heft of wine. It has that sort of thicker, not like chocolate milk or not like milk, but it is thicker. It is thicker than what you would anticipate a tea. It's almost more like coffee in that kind of respect, though not oily or acidic. Really heavy, but it is so full of that barnyard funk flavor. Hay, straw, and must. And it does have almost a berry essence to it. I think a lot of green teas to me have more like a dried stone fruit kind of flavor. I think I mentioned a little bit with the Gyokuro. You get just the tiniest little pinch of effervescent peach. This is like rich berry. When you drink like a glass of wine and you tell yourself, oh, I taste dark chocolate and I taste berries, raspberry, blueberry, or stone fruit like cherry or something like that. It's that way. You're not really tasting cherry. You're not really tasting stone fruit or chocolate. But this has that flavor, if that makes sense. You don't need to sweeten it, but I feel like if you do add a little bit of sugar, honey goes really well. Just a dab. You don't need a lot, just enough to kind of carry the flavor a little better. And yeah, don't use too much of it. My biggest thing is I always use more than I think, and I end up steeping it for an entire day, which is fine. But it is a little more caffeinated, I guess, than your typical green tea or oolong. If you use a lot on accident, you're going to find yourself with the jitters. I do sometimes. More than black tea, really. But maybe not as much as coffee. Maybe, I'm not sure. Yeah, so that's kind of my assessment of Pu'er. If you want to look at what this bag looks like inside. So, like I said, this bag has been torn. But this was a 400-gram tab, or disc. So if this is a 200-gram tab, this is about what I have left of it. Including that chunk I broke off a second ago, which I'm going to use after this. So I have, maybe about 180 grams, 150, 180 grams of it left after almost 20 years. So I don't drink a lot of this, mostly because of how this is and how cool I think this is. So I'd like to try to keep this as long as I can. You should probably store it better than I have, but in all honesty, it's still delicious and it's still amazing. I can't say that I think the flavor has really improved that much as people say, but it was so good to begin with. I have trouble imagining how much better it would be. So that is traditional Pu'er. I get almost all of my Pu'er from 7 Cups. I think they're out of Utah or Arizona, one of those places, but they order direct from China. They have their own contacts with their own I don't want to say orchard or vineyard, but their own plantations, or whatever they're called. So a lot of the products that you get on 7 Cups are only on 7 Cups, which I think is pretty cool. And they have a lot of these. I don't think they have these anymore. These specials, like this was a 7 cups. You could only get this. I think they made this just for them. So I tried to pounce on it when I saw it. I don't remember how much it was. I was in college, so I can't imagine it was super expensive. These of this size can range anywhere from like $60, $65 up to like $200, $300. I think this one is around 65, 70. This was a cheaper one. These 100 gram, it's 200. Yeah, these 100 grams, anywhere from 20 to 50. Especially, I don't know these brands. Fangzhuan, I don't know much about them. You can get your regular loose leaf and bagged. I'm just gonna say right now, I don't drink bagged tea. I don't know. They're fine. Like I used to drink a lot of Twinnings. I think we all did. If you like tea, for instance, but that's not my thing anymore. You can get loose leaf Pu'er. To me, if you're a pipe smoker and you're debating whether you want to go with loose leaf or bagged Pu'er, I would say don't bother with the bagged. There's no way a bagged Pu'er is going to be good. It's going to be way over oxidized. The pieces are going to be so brittle and crunched into nothing. There's no way you're going to get like a real Pu'er flavor from that. It might taste different than your typical black tea, for instance, but I can't imagine you'd have a good experience with that. Loose leaf though, from a better brand, maybe. I would say go for it. Again, if you're thinking about like the pipe community, if I could find an analog, it would be like a crumble cake versus a ready rubbed. Like a flake versus a ready rubbed. Something like that. If you know or understand the difference in those two things, then you'll know which one you want, right? I don't care about ready rubbed versus flake. I love flake. It's my favorite. Just about any flake. If you've watched this, Macran Navy flake is my favorite thing in the world. Capstan, is up there. It's freaking incredible. Yeah. So Eastern Star Flake, the Eastern Star Flake. Yeah. Give it a try. Let me know what you think. There may even be other types of Pu'er. These are the only kinds that I know is the two. But yeah, I don't have any specific brands to recommend, mostly because this is all in Chinese and I have no idea what it says. Even the ingredients and things are all in Chinese, so I have no clue what that says. Sometimes, I know enough kanji, sometimes I can guess what these things say. This first one, in Japanese anyway, would say ingredients essentially, and then the second one would be maybe no, that's the first one is product of origin, and then the second one is ingredients. So I don't know, and I'm sure in Chinese it's something similar. So yeah, give these a try. Check out 7 Cups if you want. I'm not sponsored by them or anything. Obviously, I'm not sponsored by anybody. But that's a good place to start. Or just, your local Oriental marketplace or something probably has this kind of stuff. Anyway, enjoy, and happy brewing, Have a nice cup of tea. I'm going to in a minute. And I'll catch you all next time. Bye, y'all. Alright, here we are, fresh out of the pot. This was about 1 teaspoon produced that color of liquor. Think you're safe to double that in a vessel this size, which is maybe 12 ounces, and get a nice purple liquor. But this will be delicious. The smell is very fragrant, very pungent, and very different probably than what you're used to if you've not had Pu'er, than maybe like your traditional black or red teas. This is very musty. A lot of barnyard flavor. If you've ever drank like a Saison beer, or a lambic sour, or something, with natural yeast, you'll know what I'm talking about. Even something like a Perique tobacco that has that sour, tangy, almost tamarind type flavor. This I wouldn't describe as sour, but that funk. A a single pot still Jamaican rum, for example. They all have that pretty traditional fermented funk flavor. That's one of the beautiful things about Pu'er.